It's time for another AAC Collaboration Corner. Thanks for joining us. And what that means is that we're here as a group to collaboratively work through some topics and talk about problem solving and sharing ideas and resources with each other. So in that vein, we wanted to start with some open conversation, and we'll put a link to our running meeting notes in the chat. I'm just not going to open them up quite yet so that we can have our cameras on if you want, or unmute if you want, and start with conversation around our topic today, which is AAC and multilingualism. So welcome. The first 5 minutes at least, we'll just kind of spend open mic style. If you have any burning questions or comments or ideas, this would be your time.
I don't know if we said yet, but the topic of today is AAC and multilingualism. So I know at this time we could talk about any challenges related to AAC. It doesn't necessarily have to be about our topic, but if there's anything regarding that topic, we can talk about that specifically.
Thanks, Sarah. While you're thinking, put in the chat or, oh, I'll pause for a minute. So Camille said she's excited about Gloria Soto's new article. I'm going to pull that up. Multilingual, augmentative, and alternative communication for the monolingual therapist. Ooh.
I saw this week when I was pulling articles, but I didn't get a chance to read it yet. So I am excited to dig into that one as well. Looks like it just was published this month, April 2025.
Camille, have you dug into it? Is there any highlights or anything you want to share?
Yeah, I just read it a few days ago because I feel like this question is coming up so much, especially for school SLPs and school teams that are all monolingual but have their multilingual students who they want to support. And so I was like, "Ooh, I'm going to read that article." And I think it just reemphasizes the same things that have always been reiterated in terms of we want to support their home language. We want to incorporate support for family and training for families so that they can really support the home language at home a lot. But what I loved is she referenced a lot of really great, like tangible resources too. So I will pull those that I got from the article. People might already know about them, but a lot of the University of San Francisco multilingual AAC resources, like the Core First Bilingual Core First Core Curriculum resource, and a few others are just really tangible resources she referenced in the article that I can put in the chat if you all aren't already planning to talk about them.
Yes, please put those in the chat. That would be awesome. And we'll be sure and link those in our running notes as well.
That's exciting. I love it anytime the articles have research and resources. It's so nice for us. For those who have just joined us, this is our informal AAC Collaboration Corner. Right now, we're bringing ideas and open conversation about AAC and multilingualism. Let's see. And then Camille was just sharing about a new article that has come out and some of the resources. Thank you so much, Camille. You were quick. Home language surveys, vocabulary selection, multilingual AAC toolkit. That's exciting. School year bilingual core guide. And myth-busting sheets. Amazing. That's great. We might want to dig into some of those. And maybe even next session, we can dig into some of those because I think a lot of the conversation about multilingualism is also about culture, right? And embracing students' culture. You were just doing a deep dive yesterday for another team. Yeah, and thank you so much. I'm glad you were doing that. Always love to have you sharing. Anyone else have any questions or resources or comments or working with a student that you want to share about? I have a question for you all in the chat. If you can think of it, can you list the languages that your students are exposed to besides English? An AAC language, grade 3. So I'm asking what languages are your students exposed to besides English? Laura said Spanish, Chinese, Mandarin, Vietnamese, Hmong, Russian, Punjabi, Ukrainian, Russian, ASL, Vietnamese, Urdu, mostly Spanish. Yeah, it's just interesting to see all the languages, no matter where you are in the state or in the country. There's a question. Lisa says, does anyone know of an app similar to TD Snap that allows both English and Spanish with a separate button, but both can be used? And Sarah, did you want to respond?
Yeah, I just put a response in the chat that says that Proloquo to Go does a really nice job with allowing easy toggling between Spanish and English. And they actually make it so that you can code switch even within the sentence itself. So you can have part English, in the message window and then switch to Spanish and back to English.
Thank you. And Lisa just mentions that sometimes money is a factor and TD Snap Lifetime was affordable. Yes. So along those lines, Sarah and Lisa, I think we have something to share about that. Let's dig into our document. And it's also a little bit about what Camille was talking about with how do monolingual SLPs support multilingual students. And then there's another question. Okay, feel free to answer the question in the chat and I'll address it in a minute. So let's see. This article right here. Oh, sorry. So let's get oriented here. In your running meeting notes, which I can't see the bottom of my screen here, look like this. We, just as a reminder, this is the playlist with all the recordings of the previous sessions that we've had. These are all the topics and resources for all the sessions that we've had. And here we are on April 3rd, AAC and multilingualism. And in your running meeting notes, there's a slide deck that Sarah put together for us. And then any references that come up in the chat, I think Sarah's putting in here as well too. Thank you. So if you open up that slide deck, I'm actually just going to go to my live PowerPoint. Oh, this is not pretty.
Got a lot going on there.
Got a lot going on here. Sorry, guys. Okay. So in slide 14, there's this apps that provide true code switching link from Angela Morad, who always has really great resources. And so there's a list here, recently updated, of apps that do what you were asking about with switching from one language to the next. She has a video for Proloquo to Go, and other apps, and shows how to do it on many of them, like Weave Chat, Touch Chat, also has an easy way to go back and forth. And then in reference to how do monolingual SLPs support multilingual AAC users, it reminded me of this clip, and that was something that Camille brought up with the article. It reminded me of this clip from Maria de Leon, who is an SLP in Southern California and has a website, Bilingue AAC, and she has some good resources on there, but she was talking about this topic. I'll play it for you. Please let me know if you can't hear it.
As SLPs ourselves, like we don't have to be bilingual to kind of teach those skills of operational skills, right? Of like, oh, look, this is a code switching button. You see here, you go here. And then look, and that's the nice things about like programs, and like you were mentioning earlier, Brenda, about how Spanish is an alphabetic language, so it happens to be really similar to English. So as monolingual SLPs that are working with Spanish bilingual students, they kind of lucked out because it is very similar.
Right.
And a lot of the translation on the AAC programs tend to be pretty good. They're not perfect, but they tend to be pretty good.
Right.
And the location, you know, the fact that they're on the same location, it helps us a lot in kind of going back and forth. Then like, as SLPs ourselves, like
she has a lot more to say. This is just a really good episode. I really enjoy it. The link to it, I believe, is in the slides. If it's not, I'll make sure to put it in there. Any comments about this so far or questions? Hopefully that that link from Angela Morad is helpful.
In the
Okay.
chat, it looks like folks are enjoying the resources and thanking you for sharing them.
Great. Also in the chat, I wanted to note that Camille said, just an FYI, schools can still access lifetime licenses to TD Snap for $149.99 through TD Snap Enterprise, and keep your eye out for emails about sales this month. That's right. Yes. Does anybody want to share anything about sales they know of coming up? I know I'm looking forward to the end of the month Touch Chat going on sale for a family I'm thinking of. Anyone else?
There's a graphic that's put out every year by Lauren Enders Gonzalez, and so I'm going to find that and put that in the chat too.
Thank you. She does great with that. Assistive wear has 50% off. That's right. Is it right now, Lori? You always got to have the right timing on these, don't you? Yes. Okay, it's right now. Thank you. And Elizabeth, I see your comment about accessing the links. So I might need to work on fixing that for you. I'm sorry. And Sarah, I wonder if we just put a link to the live PowerPoint. I'm okay with that if you are in the chat for people.
Yes.
And Sarah Sarah just added the links from the graphics from Lauren Enders, and we'll put that in our document too. Thanks, Sarah. I saw Elizabeth had a question, but I'm not finding it. Oh,
Sorry, I didn't realize I was unmuted, and I just my throat, clear my throat. My question was, I have a student that uses TouchOut with word power, and I'm trying to link the two vocabularies that I've made for him, one in Spanish and one in English, and I've made a toggle box, but when I switch from one language to the other, it doesn't pronounce it correctly. Like the Spanish goes into like the English pronunciation, and I couldn't figure out how to do it. So I figured I could ask you all before I go into the Google search mode.
yeah. So if I'm understanding you correctly,
Yeah.
you have done this, which this video, by the way, shows you how to make that toggle button. So you've made the button, so it's toggling from one to the other, and you imported the vocabulary.
Yes,
Okay.
I think.
Um, so this is a 5-minute, almost 5-minute video. So I'm curious if
Is that linked in your presentation today?
it is, but since you're having
Okay,
trouble with the links, I just put it directly in the chat right now for you. But it is in the presentation on this slide right here. It's actually this video. I wonder if it might just be a way, an issue of how it was linked in.
And I was wondering if it was also what I uploaded. It uploads as like a PDF when I press the link on the Google Doc, if that makes sense. When I click on the multilingual slides,
Oh,
it
oh,
downloads as a PDF. Oh, that's what it is. It downloads as a PDF, so it doesn't have the links, maybe. I don't know.
okay. We'll put, unless Sarah already did, a link to the direct.
I have not yet. Sari, is my version of it the most accurate, or did you change?
Oh, sorry.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
All right.
Technical issue. We'll work through it though. We'll get it to you.
Yes, it might take us a
Thank
minute.
you.
And I'll email out this group, everyone who's here today, with updated slides and links to make sure you have everything. And we'll put it in the notes. Sorry about that. But Elizabeth, I wonder if it's more of an issue of how that program language was added. If that might solve it if you watch this video, but if not, does anybody have any ideas? I haven't run into that problem.
It could be, so I can rewatch the video. I've got it in I opened it and have it on my
I've had
desktop.
I've had problems with that with other apps before too, where the pronunciation is wrong in Spanish. And the solution for me was making sure to choose a voice from the selections. That there are some voices that are specific to one language or the other, and some that are bilingual, and usually making sure I had the right voice selected. Or sometimes you have to like assign different voices to different vocabularies. But that was how I was able to solve it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melinda. That's great. Great idea. So just as a recap, if your Spanish language that you're toggling to does not pronounce the words correctly, it may be that you need to choose a different voice. Sarah, are you capturing that, like some of these things in our notes?
I can.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good questions. Are there any other questions or comments?
I have one. I am working with, sorry, I gotta fix my camera here. I'm working with a student using a communication device. I'm in a dual language setting. So he's learning at school in Spanish and in English, and using his device in both. And really bright kid, and he's working on literacy skills. He's in first grade, and he's like learning to read. And I'm trying to sort out how I can better support the teachers with using his device in his literacy instruction. It's in a gen ed classroom. It's a really specific scenario. And AAC is in a gen ed classroom in a dual language school learning to read in both languages. And I have been scouring for information or resources on that really very narrow niche. If anyone can point me in a good direction, I'd appreciate that.
I don't have resources and I don't have an answer, but I want to commiserate with you because in the district that I've been supporting, they have been increasing the number of dual languages that they offer. So they started out with having Spanish dual language and Mandarin dual language, and now they're adding, or they recently added Arabic, Korean, Hindi, and I believe I'm missing one. So the number of languages of instruction are changing. So while we previously have been taught, it's okay because the instruction's in English, so do the best you can with AAC. Now this is all shifting because the instruction is in a different language. So like I said, I don't have an answer yet, but when we get to the slides, we have some ideas, related to how to make sure that you connect with families, and that cultural responsive piece that Camille was speaking to earlier, of including relevant vocabulary, potentially having low-tech boards in a different translation, and English or whatever you have that's the best that you can do for now. Because until the technology is there, it's just so difficult to support, especially some of these languages where the syntax is very different from English. So not only are the words different, the vocabulary is different, but the word order is different. And for some of them, like Arabic, they read from right to left. And when you put words together, words aren't separate, that the way that you write changes as words are combined in Arabic. So it's just a lot to think about. And our technology is not quite there yet with AAC. I wish I had a better answer for you, but just know that other people are thinking about it too.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Well, and even too, if I can get like a few of the factors of what I'm working towards, like if there, anyone has suggestions for just the component of like using, using the system to support literacy instruction, even if it were in English, at the level of decoding, at the level of, blending and segmenting and things like that. That would be a starting place, and then I could work it into Spanish.
I have a couple ideas, but I think Elizabeth was going to say something.
No, I think that's amazing. I actually work in a dual program as well, and my student is in the gen ed setting, and so it seems like yours is too. And I just started him with AAC, but in that particular school, we don't have special programs, and he's kind of involved, and he's now like starting to speak a little bit of Spanish. He's exposed to both, and I'm just wondering the receptiveness, like how to, make it an environment where they embrace it instead of, oh, he needs so much support, he really needs a special program. Do you have any suggestions?
I don't know. I mean, no, it's really new as well for my location to have AAC users. Like none of the teachers I'm working with have ever worked with an AAC user before. And so, no, I've had to do a lot of trainings this year. I offered a training for the grade level, and then all of the specialist teachers, PE, music, library, et cetera, and then another one for a bunch of the paraeducators and support staff, and in hopes that like the device would not just stay plugged in the room, but travel around the school and be available everywhere like we'd like it to be. And that when people saw it, they wouldn't be just confused or afraid or unsure of what to expect, just so that kind of everyone building wide had some understanding and expectations of what this was and what it was for and how to support. But yeah, that's been sort of the starting place where I am.
Does your school also have special programs, or it's all gen ed?
Not at this
with
building.
Resource, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all gen ed with resource.
So you've had success, so that's
well, I mean, we're working.
What?
We're trying.
It's good to know.
Yeah. So I have a few thoughts. You two need to exchange emails.
Yeah.
Yes.
One thing I've learned, I guess, through working with Special Ed Tech Center is the power of collaborating even wider than, with your groups and then your districts, statewide, nationwide. So it made me think, like, what is there on Facebook? There's AAC for the SLP. I was thinking even just posting there. What are people doing for literacy in dual language programs? But do you have access to a phonics keyboard on your AAC app, Melinda? On the AAC?
Yeah, well, in one language. That's a bummer. Yeah, in LAMP, there's a phonics keyboard in English, but not in Spanish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Touch Chat with Word Power has the phonics, the keyboard in Spanish and English.
Ooh, good to know.
There's a comment in the chat about Project Core's professional development modules. There's shared reading, shared writing, all sorts of things. If you haven't seen that before, I totally agree. Check it out. Wonderful resources on supporting literacy skills for students with disabilities. And then a website, Literacy for All Instruction, which is amazing. We have lots of resources on this too. So that could easily take up a whole another session
Sure.
on literacy, but I'm not even sure where I would point you first. Maybe the Unlocking Literacy module, Sarah, could you pop those in the chat? I also just want to do a quick shout out to our May 1st statewide AT meeting is another great place to get ideas and resources from people. If you haven't signed up and you, I will show you that real quick because I think it's important for us to be able to talk to people so we don't feel like we're on an island, right? So you go to our statewide meeting page and it's here, May 1st, 9 to 2. If you haven't joined before, it's largely driven by what you're interested in. We do have a couple presentations, and this time we'll be having presentations that are focused on AAC. And then we have breakout room times based on topics. And we may have a little wiggle room to add a topic about multilingualism or literacy. Or if someone's feeling very strongly about a topic that relates to AAC, put it in the chat. And if we can add that, we will, because we really want it to be driven by what you're interested in. This is a great conversation.
On the side topic of like the power of networking and connecting to people to get support, I'm trying to put together a network for multilingual SLPs. So if anyone out there works in both languages and wants to get on board, shoot me your email. I'll add you.
Great. Did you put your email in the chat, Melinda?
I'm happy to.
That would be great.
Is it okay with you, Melinda, if I include your email address and contact information in our running notes for AAC Collaboration Corner? Okay.
And is it okay if we put it in the recording that people would have it so that if they're watching this, they are interested, they want to do that, or would you rather not?
Sure. Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay, great. And then you asked about another topic like literacy that we could talk about forever, which is like including students. And that is totally what Sarah is living and breathing right now, I think. And we did have that kind of come up as a topic, I think, in a previous AAC Collaboration Corner. So I would check the notes to that because there's lots of great resources that Sarah shared and others shared. I don't remember what date that was, but we can look. Any other questions or ideas? Sarah, I'm not even sure where to go in our slides because I really enjoy that we have.
I know, I agree. I almost feel like I want to point you all to the direction of these slides so that if you would like more background information on what the current research says about MLL and AAC, that you could look through this. We kind of go through, why this matters, which I think we all know, but if you want to share it with others, what common myths are around bilingualism and how it is a strength, that we used to tell people that we focus on English in school, and now we know that's not true, but parents still sometimes do receive conflicting advice. Another myth being bilingualism confuses AAC users. We know that that's not true. And just lots of good resources embedded in these slides. I wonder, Sari, if we should maybe focus on some of these collaborative questions and see where they lead. So this one, I just mentioned this myth, I'm wondering if anyone has heard this still. Have you ever been told to discourage home language use with AAC specifically? And if so, what was your reaction to that?
As in only use English
Mm-hmm.
with AAC.
Especially, I'm thinking early in my career, I used to hear people saying that, especially for non-speaking students, when their language of instruction is English, that it's, maybe difficult for them to learn their home language and the language of instruction. So focus mostly on English. This could be outdated now. I hope that it is, but curious if anyone else has heard this.
Or if you have ideas of how you would respond.
Mm-hmm.
Something's sort of in that vein that I have heard is the argument to if the school is only in English, then only English is educationally relevant. And so in the school setting, that's all that we're allowed or is appropriate to do.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I feel the same, but I've heard that.
I've heard that too.
We had a literacy retreat last weekend, going over those concepts by Karen Erickson and David Copenhaver with a group of people, and that kind of came up, I think, as the balance of instructing, providing access in a home language and English, and what does that look like? And I think the result was that it's very individualized, right? And there's no perfect answer. Obviously, we are not saying, I think, like Sarah said, this is hopefully something we're not hearing as much, but in the chat, there's a comment, as was just said, I've heard SLPs say that they do not think that adding the home language to a device is necessary. Okay. Yeah.
I love what Camille put in the chat right before that. And this is what
Oh.
I was thinking as well. She put, I luckily haven't heard this as much lately, but I think it's more of teams who are monolingual, who feel lost in how to support the other language at school. I completely agree. I think people don't have, the research isn't there, the technology isn't there. So as a school-based provider, you're like, well, what do I do? I only speak English. I don't have a tool to support you. So that's what we're going to do here. I completely agree.
Yes. That's a great way to reframe that. I think this, I don't actually remember, but it's 60 seconds. So let's watch this.
Definitely does not hinder speech or delay any speech. Actually, we are doing a disservice if we are taking away one of the languages that they understand and they process, right? Going back to that translanguaging, if the person, it's part of their identity and their life and their culture, they're speaking Spanish or French, and that's the way they process the world around them. And then all of a sudden we're going to say, no, we're going to take this away. We're actually doing a disservice in learning and setting the, a foundation of where we can keep building so language can keep expanding.
Right.
So we're like doing a disservice in that way. And on the other hand, we're also, if English is necessary for school, that's one language, but what happens at home? How is this individual going to communicate at home and in their community? So bilingualism definitely.
Again, it's just, she was such a great interview. There's a lot more on this. And she brings up this concept of translanguaging. Did I say it right? Are you guys familiar with that concept? Have you heard that before? Some head nods. Yeah. I love that. And I love the way she describes it. This is a longer clip. I won't play it, but she's talking about that and the idea of language and identity and community and culture. So I love thinking about it a little bit broader than just language. And I think that's another great way to talk about the importance of embracing the student's language at school. So as Sarah said, there's research links. Thank you to Camille who gave us another article. Do we want to go to another question, Sarah?
Yeah, I think we could.
Where did I put them? Oh, here. I think this question might lend itself to resources, but so how do you or could you support home language use in your setting? What are you doing? We heard about switching, making the app switch from one language to the next with the same button, phonics keyboard in the other language as well as English. What else?
I conduct my sessions in the two languages. Sometimes I do one session in English, sometimes I do one session in Spanish, and then others we go with the flow.
That's amazing.
Translanguage.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of going with the flow and what we do in general.
I know, right? Does anyone who is monolingual use like translators or anything like that in their sessions?
Good question.
And are they effective, or do you find it difficult to use it? Just wondering.
Mm-hmm. Like, okay.
If that's like a viable suggestion for me to share with I know people bring it up a lot, but I was just wondering if someone who actually has used it in therapy has any feedback.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Great
a
point.
comment in the chat that says, I have 2 Chinese students in one of my class, and they use both Google Translate and translating devices. I've seen that done in my district as well. I've seen interpreters come more for assessments to help gather background information about where the student is currently at, and to give information to the the assessing therapist and possible treating therapist. But I personally haven't heard of people, unless they're a native speaker themselves, using another language in session.
Anyone else?
Sorry, can you hear me? I hope it's not too loud in the background here.
It's perfect.
Okay, great. I do a lot of consultation with different school districts, and one of the things that I have been encouraging them to do is switching into the other language, and just using the icons, right? The actual images on each of the buttons to start thinking about engaging in some of that translanguaging. So, for example, I have a student who has TD Snap, English and Portuguese, and so I've been encouraging the school team to spend some time exploring the Portuguese vocabulary, and using the icons to provide some aided language input, recognizing that it's hard to do that consistently throughout the day, but giving that student a chance to hear their home language activated at school and to have that student understand that that language is equally important for them.
Thank you for sharing that, Desiree. So if I'm understanding what you're saying, that you're using the other language, in this case Portuguese, to model and show the importance and use of that language. And then also it sounds like you're kind of empowering the people in working with the student to be okay learning the device and learning a little bit of the language and exploring. That's a great.
Yeah. And just kind of at the same time, my goal for this particular student is to encourage language transfer. So I'm a bilingual SLP, and what that means to me is, kind of facilitate, what are some cognates between English and Portuguese? What are some ways in which we can identify those? Highlight them on the device, use a word wall to highlight both of the languages that the child speaks. And again, kind of a long-term project. But I do think that it's really important to highlight that to staff so that they feel like they have some footing to do the aided language input work. Again, even if it's not fully proficient in the other language, but to get started along that road.
I love that. I hope you email Melinda and I want to listen into that group.
I just shared my email with her. So
oh, good. I love these ideas. You mentioned cognates, and I thought this research was interesting that this is specifically looking at Spanish, but Spanish, more than half of the words, so Spanish and English have more than 20,000 cognate pairs. More than half of the words were tier 2 vocabulary. So thinking about what words to target, right? This would be a great thing to think about. It's kind of like when we think about like buy-in for teachers, sometimes is looking at, look, all these core words or many of these core words are also sight words that the student's learning or spelling list words or whatever. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Anyone else doing this or have questions or comments?
I've never done this before, this leaning into cognate pairs, and I really like this idea. And on slide 16, it looks like Sari embedded a link that brings you to a whole list of some of those cognates there that you could target. I love this idea.
Yeah, these were specifically Spanish, English, and student-centered from Colorado. So words for kids, because sometimes you'll Google pairs and they're not, necessarily appropriate. Elizabeth said you're familiar with this resource. And but you can also just Google it, thank goodness for Google. And you could say verbs, right? That was the first thing I would look for is the verbs that are cognate pairs in the languages you're looking for. I feel like people might want to talk about this. What apps, I mean, maybe you want to share an app and why you've used it, right? I know I put Avaz because there was a specific variant, Indian language a student needed, and this just happens to have 6.
And I will just say, I recently met with that app, a vendor from that app, Avaz or Avaz, I'm not sure how you say it, but they have some really cool features available too. I'm just hoping that some other AAC apps start embedding them as well. But for example, you touch a symbol and it becomes bigger. And so that enlarged symbol and the movement of it, research shows that helps with students with remembering where those symbols are in their device. They also have next to their message window a tone button that you can push and change the tone that the message window is spoken in. So you could say it in an angry voice or a sad voice, happy, excited voice, or sarcastic voice. So just some, also you can embed clips of YouTube videos. So it doesn't take you all the way out to YouTube, but it hosts the clip of it. So there's no ads or anything to program in some gestalts and stuff. It looks like someone said that Nova Chat has that option for a part of the settings too. So really cool new features coming out.
Yeah, to get bigger.
It.
Yeah, and also Touch Chat, I think just recently added the videos where you don't have to leave to get in. We need a video on that. Elizabeth, do you want to share what you put in the chat verbally?
Yes. So I think the website Colorín Colorado is based on the expression that as a child, when your parents would read to you, and at the end of the story, they would say, Colorín Colorado, este cuento se ha acabado. And if you can like notice the intonation, like acabado, colorado, those words rhyme. So it's not based like out of like the state of Colorado. It's like Colorado, it's like colored.
I see. Thank you for the clarification. I love that. Thank you. I wanted to shout out to Seaboard because this used to be free. It's not free any longer, but it's what the developer told me is that they are, because they're in so many different countries, they're trying to, in countries where they feel that it can be supported for a fee, they're trying to offset the cost and make it free for others. So they have it available in pilots in many different countries. And it was just really interesting to learn about what they're doing. But it does have a lot of languages. This list I learned about from Maria De Leon. And I'm not sure how recently it's been updated. Desiree said Weave Chat is also working on getting their app translated into several languages. Thanks. Yeah, I noticed that they were on this one too. Thanks for sharing that. And Camille, if you want to share anything about your languages, feel free. For those who don't know Camille, she's our Toby Dynavox rep, one of ours.
I'm also going to put the link to a really interesting article in the chat that it was written by the founder of Assistiveware, who is the parent company to Proloquo to Go and Proloquo. But this article, it looks like it was written last October, and it's all about the history of how they made their apps bilingual. So they started with Proloquo for text because it's easier to translate a text-based app. And then it talks about how they took on the challenge of Proloquo to Go, making a bilingual symbol-based version, and how difficult that was, and how they work to make the voices or the languages work in tandem. Instead of having to switch out to a completely different file, you just toggle between the languages. And also about the children's voices and recording the voice actors. So I just thought it was a really interesting read. I'll put that in the chat for you.
That does sound interesting. Thanks, Sarah. Again, if people have resources, please feel free to share, and we'll put them all in that document so you have them. Thanks, Camille. Camille put in the chat all the list of languages that are available from TD Snap. You went above and beyond, Camille. I just thought you might mention a couple, but there she goes, putting them all in there. New Express page set with purpose of adding way more languages more quickly. Great. And then she noted some that are available on Page Set Central. And it's not long. It's not more information than we want, Camille. It's exactly what we want. We're here to get resources. So thank you very much. It's so interesting. I love looking at all the languages available. Another resource is low tech or light tech core boards. We have some curated here, like French, but the Edmonds School District put together. Oh, I must be in edit mode. Sorry, Edmonds School District put together a PDF file of many different languages, core boards in different languages that they needed for their district. So you can access that here. Again, we'll make sure you have all the links. What do you wish you had? I think sometimes it's hard to say this because there are so many things that we would like, but I also know that companies are responsive. I think Camille can probably attest to that they want to hear and listen from users and AAC users and therapists and educators and make devices better and more efficient and effective for students. So I would encourage you to reach out and tell the device manufacturers and companies what you wish you had. Deborah said more parent-friendly directions and supports in various languages. That's important. Again, I feel like a lot of us are sitting on resources that we use, like potentially some parent-friendly directions and things like that, that would probably be great to share with each other. So if you have those here, great. Or if you connect with Melinda. Camille says, the best way we improve the multilingual capabilities of AAC systems is by giving feedback. It's so true. Every feedback I get, I pass on directly to our developers. Share it with your local representatives. That's part of our role, is to pass it on so those changes can be made. Yes. Deborah says, when I myself don't speak a language, it's very hard to explain how a parent can help their child develop communication.
That's so true. And I mean, that really, I don't know, Sarah, if you want to pull up slide 17, it says family and cultural collaboration. It makes me think about ethnographic interviewing and just really being open and asking questions instead of trying to tell them what to do, saying, like, tell me about language in your home, tell me about your culture, and gathering all of that information. And then taking what you know to be best practice in AAC and kind of fusing that together. So while you don't speak their language, you know that visuals can be supportive. You know that it helps both receptive and expressive language and so on and so on. And so just taking what they tell you and starting to incorporate what you already know into that. That's the best that we can do right now.
I love that, Sarah. And I love the ethnographic interview. It reminds me a lot of what Dr. Danny Scott talks about, who is a professor teaching, I believe she's teaching in communication science disorders, and does a lot around cultural humility and therapeutic relationships. I'll look for the link. We have a playlist on our website with a cultural responsive playlist with a lot of her things, her recordings. And the cultural humility piece was a real big aha to me this year. So I encourage you to lean into that part of her conversation.